Okay, folks. Someone in the comments asked about a full walkthrough of the Combinator, so I will do this now. The Combinator is first of all a container. It could contain effects, instruments, and players. So let's go over the faceplate so we get a full coverage here. First of all, there's this patch function here. We won't use it right now. We got 4 control knobs and 4 control switches, as well as a pitch and a modulation knob. And a bypass on-off button here. Down here is the inside of the container, so we could easily drag our effects in order, and we would get an automatic routing through the device into our vocoder, from the vocoder into our channel dynamics, and from the channel dynamics into a channel EQ, and from the channel EQ back to the Combinator mixer. So this is a closed loop and goes out here. If we use the input, some easy stuff here, we use Redrum, and we drag the stereo output into the input of the Combinator. Now our whole signal chain will be applied to our signal, and we are now able to map these signals to our controls. So for instance, I could pick any knob here, maybe let's use the threshold of our gate, and map this to Combi Control. Combi Control 1 would be our corresponding Control 1 knob here. If we rename this, like maybe the thresh, then go to map to Combi Control, we got that name here. So it would be easier to get all your buttons and knobs here named and then start to apply to this. So let's map this to our threshold knob, and we get a linkage. But if this is not exactly what we want, we could tweak this inputs if we open our editor. If we take the editor and select our dynamics, channel dynamics 1, it's here. We now see there is this source here. So we got our threshold, and the target goes to the gate threshold. And now we can define a minimum and maximum range for our knobs. So if we start right here around the middle and close editor back up, now our lowest point on this knob here should correspond to the middle position of this knob here. So if we drag it around, now threshold 0 equals threshold negative 26.7. So we could decrease the range of our signal, decrease the range of our threshold. If we open up the editor again and reset this to negative 52, we also got that source range down here, which lets you pick. Oh, maybe we should try something else here. We put the release to control. We should map this to threshold. Okay, that's my fault. Let's delete this. Now we could choose our source range to 50. Okay, so for the first half of our knob, the threshold should go up from negative 52 to 0, and for the second half of this knob, the release should go up. So let's try this. We are about at the half stage, and our release goes up. So this shows you easily you could set up different different knob ranges for different actions. And this is very powerful because you can link between different parameters. Okay, so let's reset that. For every device, we have to choose which device we want to change. On the backside of the device, we got 8 CV inputs where we could apply control voltage to alter anything that goes in here. So if we choose a pulsar, for instance, we could route out the CV signal of our pulsar into one of the CV into one of the CV ins, and we could choose if we need a bipolar pattern or a unipolar pattern. For this, let's choose a unipolar pattern, which only goes from 0 to 1. And let's hook this up maybe into the EQ. Choose the input CV1, and the target should be my low middle frequencies frequency range. And as soon as we link this, we see that our pulsar will be sent into this knob and automated. Cool about this is if we would do this here, which would be basically the same. We don't get an animation. So despite the fact this is going up and down, we don't see this animation. So it's oftentimes cooler to route through the CV1 to 8 to get this automation visible. So you easily see which parameter gets modulated. If we are in the editor mode, we could choose configure, which gives us the ability to change the look of the combinator. So for instance, we are now able to remove elements here, like the pitch mod wheels, using the delete button if selected. And we also could delete everything here we don't need. And we could easily get them back if we click on wheels. We also have the option to change the look a bit of the wheels and, as you see, the position. We also could choose if the text is light or dark, and we also could choose if the text is left, right, top or bottom, and we also could disable the label if we don't need it. We also get an FX bypass button, which comes in handy if you have long chains of effects and you just want to get a bypass on this. We also got a run button, which enables all the playable stuff like players or step sequencers if we need that. And we get the option for different switches to totally change our look. As you see, there appear these blue lines if I am at a reasonable position. So this is the middle position of our pitch button here, of our pitch wheel here. And this would be the same top as our run function. So we get a little bit of alignment going on. We also could choose space horizontally, space vertically, align horizontally, and align vertically. For instance, if you got multiple and say align horizontally, they will snap in place in order to the first one. We also could change the background and the height of the device. So classic mode would be 2 units high. We also could make a small one if we don't really need big space. We could decrease our combinator size by this. We also could choose huge if we need more space for more buttons or for big buttons. We also could change our color by changing it here, and we also could insert a backdrop. I don't have any prepared right now, but we could just import any picture in a JPEG style. Important here is we could read off our resolution of the units in this white box here. So if we change that, we always will get the according pixel size of what we need to make our own backdrops. If we choose use legacy backdrops, we get 2 additional buttons. which correspond to editor and device buttons here, if you are more into that. We also could change the label of our combinator, so we could turn it off, light or dark. So this would be a setup for an effect chain. To be clear, it is totally possible to split your effects chain here and incorporate some parallel processing. So we could use things like the gain tool, where we have a split out. So let's say the first instance goes into an equalizer. So let's reroute that. And our second instance goes into a maximizer or something. So the possibilities are endless. Only thing to note is if we put out main out and split out at the same time, we maybe get a volume increase, but we could also decrease this with the main volume if we need to. Yeah, so the possibilities are endless. We just need to choose router and let the slider sit in the middle here, so we get an even main output and an even split output. And we could choose which we want, like a power mixer on a DJ setup. This could be a very handy setup, but we are not only limited to effects here. We could make an instrument combinator. Let's delete all of that, and maybe let's start with this red drum here. So we choose combine into combinator, and now we have the option to select the combinator. So the blue frame is here, and so now our red drum is playing like our combinator is playing. We could also layer stuff. So let's delete the red drum for a bit, and maybe we need a radical piano, a process piano, and an NNXT for good measurement. If I now play the whole combinator, all three of them will fire the same note. As you see, we get three outputs here. But why is this in? Oh. I don't know why this happened. If you get something like this, you easily could remove the connection, select your device, hold shift and drag it slightly up, and it gets rerouted. So this is more like it. If we play it now, we get all three outputs here. We could take this further by using a player. We now have the option to put the player above. We could now put the player above our combinator and effect the whole combinator. Just make sure the combinator is selected. Or we could instead use players inside of the combinator. But this has the downside, we need a player for each instance of instrument. So if I just apply the baseline generator on the radical piano, the process piano and the NNXT will still play the full chord without the baseline. Why isn't this playing? Okay, so now we got that player inside the combinator, but this only affects the radical piano now. The process piano and the NNXT won't play the arpeggiated notes. So if we want to get the same notes for every instance, it would be better to put this above, but we could also say, if I press F, like I did now, our chord sequencer plays on process piano some chords. So we get. The problem with this is the notes aren't in scale now, but we could easily change that with other tools if we need that to. Chord sequencer was a bad choice for that right now. But I think you get the idea. You just need more instances of players or different players. But this could lead to very cool arpeggiated sounds or very cool different outcomes here. Okay, we would take 3 times in Arpeggiolab and change the different presets so we get a random outcome here. So this just means it's totally possible to trigger different notes by using different players on different devices in the same combinator. So this is just a proof of concept. Also note, if we got multiple instruments here, we could open our editor and have the option to activate or deactivate the key. No, this could be very handy if we use instruments as effects inside of a combinator. So, for instance, if we use retro beats, we could now use its inputs and its outputs and have act like an effect. But the problem is we would also fire these samples here, and if we don't want that, we just deactivate, and now we don't have the samples playing. We could also choose a range. So for instance, everything below G1 should be placed by the drums, G sharp 1. So we could set up a whole band like this. So we got 10 octaves to place different instruments and have on a full keyboard. So we could spread this across a whole keyboard and use it for live performances or something. We also could set the velocity range here and choose which performance controllers should be able for the selected instrument. Yeah, okay, I guess that's everything. I've talked too long. Make sure you have different utilities you can use in your combinator. Make sure to use different effects and automate stuff in there by using the CV tools. And you could get pretty ham with this and save all the settings and send this to your friends. To be clear, you could also incorporate VSTs into that. So VST2 or VST3, it doesn't matter. The only downside to this is if you take this to a friend or want to give this to someone, you need to make sure they have the same VST plugins installed. Same goes for the rack extensions. But if you only use standard rack extensions, you should be good to go to give this to your friend or to another producer. Okay, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If so, please make sure to hit subscribe, leave a friendly comment down below. This helps the channel growth and be alive. Yeah, I guess that's all for today. See you next time. Have a great day.